Oh yeah. What's up guys, Kellen back with Inside Out Precision. I'm actually cranking out 2 videos today because we're going on a river trip starting on Thursday, so I'm not going to be here to film more videos this week. So I just did the spine index video and I figured it'd be a good opportunity to kind of show what broadheads we carry here and which ones we like. I want to preface this by saying I know there are a lot of good broadheads out there, okay? I'm not saying that these are the best or the worst by any, or that they're better than something you've been using, but I see a lot of videos where they're testing broadheads and they're shooting through plywood or ballistic gel and all that, and that's great, but the problem is it's really hard to find a control, meaning what I'm shooting into, that's going to stay consistent for every single shot. If I shoot a piece of plywood and then I shoot another broadhead right next to it, that plywood's going to be weakened compared to the first one, so you're going to get kind of false results. So all the broadheads we carry are ones that have proven results. Guys that we've talked to who kill animals on a consistent basis. They've had blades fall out, broadheads that performed really well. They've had broadheads that hit and all the blades just fall off. They have broadheads that bend. So over the years we've kind of compiled a set of products here that we see perform consistently really well. So starting with expandables, in Oregon this is the first year, this upcoming season is the first year that expandables are going to be legalized. So we've had a ton of questions with guys coming through the shop saying, are they going to be good for elk? Are they going to be good for deer, bear, all that. Questions on penetration and durability. You name it, we've had the questions. So at the ATA show this year, Wayne spent a lot of time talking to all sorts of different people back there in the industry, and 2 names seemed to keep coming up consistently, and that was the Grim Reapers and the Rage. So Wayne had previously shot Rage up in Alaska. He's killed 6 or 7 bucks with them in Alaska, as well as 2 or 3 bulls in Wyoming, and he said they are a different level of lethal. The entry and exit wounds are just so much larger. They put so much more blood on the ground, and really it's just a different level of lethality. Meaning, when you shoot that deer, if you've ever shot a deer with a fixed blade broadhead, sometimes even if you just put it right through the wheelhouse, they do that little buck and then they just run off like they didn't even get hit. He said that does not happen with these expandable broadheads. As soon as you hit them, they are visibly hurt and they're usually dead within 50 yards. Now, obviously, there's going to be exceptions to that. If you shoot a deer right in the back quarter, hind quarter, no matter what you're shooting, you're going to have a hard time finding it. But with that being said, we decided to carry the Grim Reaper and Rage. So I've got actually the full set of Grim Reapers that they sent us. So these are all really cool heads. You got all different, this is like a 4-blade, 1 3/8 cut. You've got the hybrids, which is actually a fixed blade with the bleeder blades that open up on it. You've got, really large diameter 3 blades. This is the whitetail special, they call it. This thing is huge. That's going to leave a massive hole. And one thing that we've noticed that's cool about these Grim Reapers is their point on these is extremely sharp. I mean, when I just drop this from like 4 inches, it sticks in the wood. Now, I can't say that about other heads. For example, here I have the Rage. This is the new no collar hypodermic, but when I drop this one, it does not stick. Now, obviously that little point is not gonna make or break your penetration, but it can't hurt to have a sharper point. Wayne recently shot a couple deer in Maui with these Grim Reapers. The Axis deer said they performed amazingly well. There's no collar on these either. There's actually a little spring system in here where these blades lock in. And when this head impacts something hard enough, the spring will actually engage in here and open these. Now, you're probably saying, well, what if the spring fails? Well, then it just turns into like any other head to where when these hit the hide, they'll open. So they're pretty fail-safe. I haven't talked to anybody that's had an issue with these deploying. They also make a great fixed blade here. This is a 4-blade. They have a 3-blade as well. But lots of different options from Grim Reaper. And like I said, this is going to be the first year. We're going to hear lots of stories on them, but I think we're gonna see a lot of really good success with these. The next head that we're really big on are really all of the Rage series, but these are the new collarless ones. So there's no little O-ring collar here that has to break when they hit. They have this blade retention system that when this arrow impacts, these little wings here hit the hide, and it's gonna open up these blades, and now I've got a 2-inch cutting diameter there, or an inch and 5/8 or inch and 7/8 or something like that, but a lot of cutting diameter. And the cool part about that is that with the standard head, you know, you get, I think 2 or 3 shots. There's 3 little slots in the collar that I could rotate and then put these blades back in. But with this, if I can find it, I just grab it, push it right back in, and I'm good to go. So there's enough resistance here that if I just clip a little thing of grass or something, it's not gonna open, but there's not too much resistance to where they're gonna have any issues deploying when they hit an animal. So again, that's the new Rage hypodermic, no collar. They've got a lot of really good ones, but this seems to be, you know, the most popular one that guys are asking for. So that's kind of the expandable line that we're carrying this year. We have some G5s as well. Wayne shot a deer with them in Maui with the dead meat, and it didn't really quite perform the way he wanted it to. So we're actually putting those on clearance right now if you guys are looking for some cheap heads. But these seem to be a lot more reliable and leave bigger blood trails for you. So the next is fixed blade. And Oregon, like I said, has been a fixed blade state since history. You know, this is the first year we can have expandables. So we have a lot of good information on fixed blades, on what works and what doesn't. And the biggest thing with fixed blades is you need a really well-made head. If it's not manufactured well to where it's perfectly square and spins really well, you're never gonna get good arrow flight. No matter how much you square up the end of your arrow or index it with your vanes or any of that, you're gonna have a tough time. So starting with the Mudsie Trocars. These are not the same Mudsies you're gonna find at Walmart, okay? These are not the NX3 or the NX4 that have the little collar with the blade lock. These blades are actually bolted in. They're actually angled slightly to the right so that when they hit, they spin, and they are just razor sharp. I've killed 2 or 3 animals with these, and they're devastating. Even on a I had a cow that I shot that I hit her a little far back. She was quartered away. I hit her kind of low and back, and without getting too graphic, it completely opened her up. I mean, there was stuff falling out as she was running away. So really lethal head there. They all spin really well. You know, they do have a little collar on there that sometimes you need to replace after you shoot them a bunch, like on your practice head. But generally, you know, I sight in with one of them, and as long as they're all indexed the same on my arrows and they're all spinning well, they're all gonna fly exactly the same. And they're pretty affordable. We sell them for $33 for a 3-pack. So that's been kind of the gold standard for us for a long time. We've just always had good results with them. The only thing that I've noticed is they do have, their blade is a little bit thinner. And if you hit something hard, like sometimes guys will, you know, lose a blade in one of our broadhead targets, and another guy will shoot and nick that blade, and it doesn't bend it over, but it will chip it just a little bit. So that's the only downside of these, is the blades are not the toughest steel that I've ever seen. But we've seen a lot of guys shoot stuff with these. I've never had somebody come back and say, oh, you know, that broadhead completely failed. You know, didn't leave any blood. Everybody says it left a lot of blood, you know, worked great, did its job. The next really popular head that we have, and these are the ones I'm shooting this year actually, these are the QAD Exodus. Now these things are an awesome head. They've got a really big, tough chisel point on them there, and it's really sharp. The edges on it are almost like a cut-on contact 3-blade, even though it's not technically. The other thing is that the ferrule of the broadhead is much shorter, meaning it's gonna catch less wind. So if your bow isn't tuned just perfectly, you're not gonna see as big of a shift of impact with a head like this as you will with some other fixed blades. I will say this is probably the toughest fixed blade on the market. In fact, this is a little demo that they sent us, and this is not super weak steel. This is stainless steel, and this is the actual head that was shot through it 6 times. Obviously the point is a little bit dulled, but none of the blades are bent. They're just, you can see it's been shot through, you know, an 1/8 inch steel plate 6 times, but it held up really well. I know I've not killed anything with these, but everybody I've talked to that's shot these at an animal said that they were awesome. You know, left good blood, really tough. You know, if you hit a rib, like elk hunting, if you nick that shoulder blade or you know, center punch a rib or something, these just blow right through and they retain all their blades. So that's a really, really popular head. The other cool thing about these is they come in 85, 100, and 125, whereas the Trocars only come in 85 and 100s. So you got a little more option in your point weight there. If you're looking for a little different style head, and these are more popular with people who might have a shorter draw length or shooting lower poundage, this is a cut-on contact 3-blade. This is made by Magnus. It resembles the G5s quite a bit. And you know, without bad-mouthing G5, they were a great head for a long time, but something changed in their manufacturing, and we started getting heads where, you know, 1 out of every 5 or 6 would wobble, even though the arrow was perfectly square, and then you'd put on another head on the same arrow and it'd spin fine. So it was in the broadhead, and then they just weren't as sharp as they used to be. So these are crazy sharp. They actually have a lifetime warranty. So if you shoot through an animal and hit a rock or something and you can find your broadhead, you can send it back to them and they'll send you a new one. Again, these are more popular with lower poundage. That cut-on contact blade is going to start penetrating and cutting as soon as it hits. Whereas like the Trocar and the Exodus with the more chisel tip, takes a little more horsepower to punch that chisel tip through the hide. So if you're running lower poundage but you still want good blood, these are an awesome option. Again, they come in 85, 100, and 125s. Now, if you're looking for more of a single blade option, these are again Magnus. They're a great, great head. Lots of the youth that we set up. So, you know, kids that are 15 and under, they're only pulling 40 or 45 pounds and they have a 24-inch draw length or something like that. These are going to be the best penetration. There's the least resistance with these going through an animal. The downside to a single blade like this is that they don't leave very much blood. It's just a little slit right through the animal as opposed to a hole, so there's not nearly as much hemorrhaging. So you gotta have a little better tracking skills because the blood trail is not gonna be very big with these. They're still a really popular head. Again, they're lifetime guarantee on them, so really nice broadheads. But you're gonna kinda wanna choose your head based on your setup. So if you're lower poundage, short draw length, these are gonna be a great option, as will most single blades in general. So I hope that kind of gives you an idea as to what we've seen be really successful. I get asked all the time, what's the best broadhead? Again, I'm not saying these are the best. I'm saying these are what we have seen proven results with time and time again. All the ones I mentioned. So the Trocars, the Exodus, the SS Snuffers, the Buzz Cuts, the Grim Reaper expandables, and the Rage expandables. All really solid heads. So if you have any experience with these, or maybe you have experience with a broadhead that is, you know, says they're the best and ended up failing, I'd love to hear about it. I'm always looking for new stuff to put in the shop here. So feel free to comment below. As usual, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. We've really seen a big uptick in subscribers lately, and we really, really appreciate it. You guys have, you've been awesome. So until next time, remember, precision is a decision. Keep them in the middle.